All the links for EMP Shield are in the description below the video. Hey everybody, before we get into today's video or live stream, I just wanted to tell you all about MyPatriotSupply. They have like so many products, it's crazy. I wouldn't be able to even do a whole video on it. But just to kind of give you a quick brief overview, I'll go ahead and play this short video clip and try to keep up with it as we go. So they have the emergency survival food. They have these special sales. They have a gift guide, and you can just all these different gift ideas down below. They have awesome solar generators. Every solar generator comes with a solar panel, so for outside charging. You've got most recommended survival gear, water purifiers, flashlights, candles, everything. Heirloom seeds, 70 plus varieties, all the different brands that they have here. Let me pause this here so I can go through the list. They've got Aqua Pure water filtration, Aquameyer off-grid hydration, Beyond Outdoor Meals, Franklin's Finest Survival Coffee. It's awesome coffee, really good. Grid Doctor Power Solutions, Instafire Unstoppable Flame and Heat, MyMedic First Aid Kits. Again, we mentioned the heirloom seeds. These are the Patriot Seed heirloom seeds. The Ready Hour food and the Ready Hour gear. Over to the right is my QR code. If you use that code or click the link in the description below, you can get discounts when you make your purchases. All right, good morning, everybody. 1 second here, I need to get a little bit better light. All right, that's a little better. All right, I got a lot to cover this morning, and I've got one special topic that I want to talk about, and it might ramble on. It's kind of in addition to some stuff that I talked about yesterday, but anyway, let's go through and do the news first, and then we'll hit my special topic. So let me just make sure I'm queued up properly here. Looks like I am. Alrighty. Okay, so first is the Treasury Secretary Besant torches NBC over the Argentina bailout claims. It's pretty interesting. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I will take and cover some of the better parts of it. Okay, so he's basically torching MSNBC over the Argentina bailout, and I think this will help clear up a lot for a lot of people that are out there screaming about how we can give like $20 billion to Argentina when we've got homeless people here. Okay, so Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent set the record straight when MSNBC claimed that the Trump administration is providing a, quote, bailout, unquote, to Argentina. The news broke in October that the Trump administration would implement a $20 billion currency swap with Argentina, which legacy media outlets have repeatedly described as a bailout for the Latin American country. Democrats criticized the plan, arguing that the administration had strayed from its America First agenda and failed to prioritize American farmers, citing trade negotiations with China that led to China temporarily suspending purchases of U.S. soybeans. During a Friday morning interview on MSNBC's Morning Joe, correspondent Jonathan Lemire asked Bessent, how does a $20 billion bailout of Argentina help Americans? Bessent replied to Lemire, do you know what a swap line is? It's a currency swap, yes, Lemire responded. Yes, but what is that, Besant asked. He said, you're the Secretary Treasury, Lemire stated. So basically he's saying, you tell me, because he doesn't know, right? So he goes, yes, but why would you call it a bailout? Besant questioned. In most bailouts, you don't make money. The U.S. government made money. We focused our financial balance sheet to stabilize the government, one of our great allies in Latin America, during an election. He reiterated that the U.S. would make money from the arrangement, adding that he would rather use peace through economic strength than have to be shooting at narco boats coming offshore if the Argentinian government collapsed. Besant called the situation a generational opportunity in Latin America to create allies. And it's also good for the United States by adding money to the bottom line. So by stabilizing the economy there and make it a profit, then that's a very good deal for the American people. Besant continued, there's a lot we could have been doing for the American farmers, but Democrats closed the government. He clarified that the arrangement with Argentina was a $20 billion credit line and that the U.S. has already made a profit on the swap line, which involved exchanging U.S. dollars for pesos. So basically what he's saying is with the government being good in Argentina, the amount that the rate of the pesos, just like the American dollar, you know how you have a strong dollar, weak dollar, the same thing with the peso. Now, other things that a lot of people aren't talking about is that straight across the board with a lot of our allies, some of the BRICS nations, they're already working on that. Iraq is a big one with the dinar. Other countries are involved too, but they're talking about equalizing each country's monetary system, or like the equivalent of their dollar. It's all going to be evened out. So this is how this is a good thing. It's a plus for the United States. Okay, moving on. President Trump, I'm not going to play the whole video, but basically what he's saying right here in the short is that from now on, we're going to be celebrating Victory Day. So Veterans Day is going to be called Victory Day. And he also stated that this has to do with us winning World War I, World War II. He said there'll probably be other wars that we've won that'll be added in later on down the road. But for right now, it'll be Victory Day for World War I and World War II. All right, moving on. This one here is pretty cool too. This came out from Jim Ferguson. The shift is complete, and even the White House just admitted it. X is home to hundreds of millions of users, independent journalists, and global news outlets. He said, read that again. The press secretary of the United States just declared what legacy media feared most. X is now the world's newswire. The gatekeepers have lost control. The old press rooms, once the arbiters of truth, now refresh X to see what you post next. The monopoly on information is broken. The narrative machine is collapsing. From citizen reporters to whistleblowers to on-the-ground truth tellers, we are the media now. And that's exactly why they are afraid. Okay, so I am going to play this one here. It's only 25 seconds. We'll just let her play.
We have John Stoll, who is the head of news at X. As you all know, you're all on X. It's home to hundreds of millions of users, a large contingent of independent journalists and news organizations across geographies and political spectrums. And at the same time, X remains the go-to platform for many legacy news outlets. And I know, as I mentioned, many of the reporters in this room use X to attract eyeballs to your work. We have John Stoll, who is the...
All right. So she's like the best press secretary we've ever had, I think, in my opinion. What do you guys think about that? Okay, now moving on. Now there's this other article that got put out by Conservative Liberty. This is dealing with Anderson Cooper. Could be out at CNN following troubling discovery. This article is actually clickbait, but there's actually some information if you read between the lines and if you've been up to date on current happenings since 2017-ish. I would actually even go as far as to say the day that President Trump came down the escalator. But I will go ahead and pop this one open and we will kind of go through that really quick. Let me just make sure it's coming up properly. Yep, it is. All right. Okay, so mainly what this article is talking about is how much money people are making and they're trying to cut the bottom line. Okay, so we do know that there's new leadership at CNN, and the new leadership, this is basically, I'm trying to find the spot here, but we're at, it's talking about how much money these people are making. For example, like Erin Burnett, her compensation for CNN is estimated at about $3 million. Okay, I don't know if that's $3 million a year or if that's like $3 million, like how football players get a contract. I don't know, but what they're doing is they're cutting back. Now, Anderson Cooper, what I'm reading through here, I wanna move up to here. He said, so a possible sign of Cooper's plans, and this is after CNN, emerged after reports indicated he had recently signed with Creative Artist Agency. Okay, and that really popped out to me. It stuck out to me because I think that's also aligned with central casting. So basically, it's a move that could signal his intent to explore other opportunities beyond CNN, possibly before any forced exit takes place. Okay. Meanwhile, resentment reportedly continues to grow among the remaining staff. Rumors of CNN anchor Caitlin Collins, she's the one that's always with the press corps at the White House. She went out and purchased this lavish vacation home in Nantucket, and that apparently stirred some frustration, especially amid the job cuts and budget restrictions affecting lower level employees. So the interesting part about this is they're citing it as they need to cut the bottom line and get rid of, and it kind of looks like they're going after most of the upper level of CNN. But then what really was assigned to me was the Creative Artist Agency, and it makes me wonder, because I don't know if you've all noticed over the past few months that CNN has been getting friendlier and friendlier towards President Trump, and especially since they have Scott Jenkins on. Scott is he avidly stands up for President Trump, and he puts all the liberals on CNN in their place all the time. So I would also look with CNN as Jenkins would probably get more of a lead anchor position somewhere, could possibly take over Anderson Cooper's job. All right, so keep an eye on that, because I think that is where they're cleaning. That's another part of cleaning the swamps, is they're starting to clean up some of these mainstream news agencies. There were also rumors going around that CNN could be possibly on the market and be bought out. So we'll see. So this one here, they're talking about Democrats arrested in a fraud investigation. This is Trump was right again. So we're going to pop this guy up. I got to clear my other ads here quickly as soon as it loads. All right, so Democrats arrested in fraud investigation. So this, interestingly enough, are having to do with indictments that have been issued in Texas as part of a sweeping investigation into alleged illegal ballot harvesting, with former Democrat Party county chair and 8 others now facing serious charges. Now, they went on to name a bunch of them. Juan Manuel Medina. Then there is Cecilia Castanalo, Rachel Leal, Inelda Rodriguez, and Susana Flores Carrizales. So I want you guys to all take notice, and I'm not trying to do racial profiling or anything like that here, but pay attention to the names that I'm giving you. Here's some stuff in other states also dealing with vote harvesting. In Arizona, 2 individuals, Gloria Lopez Torres and Nadia Guadalupe Lizarragua, I think it's called Mayorquin. Okay, again, pay attention to the names. So when they're talking about these ballot harvesting and the illegal stuff that's going on in the voting, it sounds to me like they're not only is it that they're doing some illegal stuff with voting, but I think that they're also helping to get illegals on the ballot so they can vote. All right. Moving on. Supreme Court Justice brought back to D.C. and the justices. Okay. And this one is talking about a key legal roadblock standing in the way of President Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda has been lifted by the U.S. Supreme Court, allowing the deportation of 8 illegal immigrants currently held at a U.S. military base in Djibouti. Okay, so what's really cool about this, because it not only stands with like the with just like remigrating illegals to their original country or to a country of their choice, as long as that country takes them. But this also has to do with ICE and any of the people that like anything with Department of Homeland Security, ICE, and even with the U.S. Marshals that are actually activated now that are apprehending the illegals that are in the country. So when the Supreme Court rules on something, a lower court cannot overrule what the Supreme Court has already ruled on. So this not only gets rid of a roadblock on this immigration enforcement that's happening with actually people getting, moved out of the states. It opens things up to where and letting ICE and the other immigration offices actually do their job. So when you read into things a little bit, you see you can kind of figure out what's happening here. So a lot of times when President Trump takes things up to the Supreme Court, and you might think that it has to do with one thing, but if you look at all the other things that would fall underneath that, that all gets white clear too. Mainly what we're looking at right now, and we're going to be talking about lawfare and stuff again in the big thing that I'm going to talk about. But when we start wiping out all the lawfare and it gives President Trump the ability to actually do his job, not only as the president, but as commander-in-chief, we're going to get a lot more done. And eventually all of you that are getting antsy about seeing arrests and other things happening, you might be put at ease a little bit. And then for some of you that jumped off the ship and jumped back on board, it might do you some good to apologize a little bit to the people that you dissed about hanging out and making sure that they stuck with the president. Okay, moving on. All right. So this is what gets me, and we're going to spend some time on this. Okay. This here was posted by Lieutenant Colonel Reagan, and this is to deal with the SEAL Team 6 operator reveals a high IQ move to kill Osama bin Laden. Now, this led me to back over to Sean Ryan's channel over on YouTube. Okay, let me see here. Let me get back to my main screen for a moment. That way you can see my big ugly mug. I am going to jump on over to YouTube. If I can spell it right. And I am subscribed to Sean Ryan, but I'm just going to do a quick search for him. It'll be quicker. I wasn't sure if I was going to actually open this all the way up, but here we go. I'm just going to leave it on this screen right here. I'm not going to open the video up because I didn't get permission from Sean to play any of his show. But as you can see in the middle of the screen, the Sean Ryan show with Matt Bissonette. Now, Matt is one of the SEAL Team 6 operators that was actually on the ground when Osama bin Laden was taken out. A lot of his teammates have also said that everything that he said is exactly what happened on the mission. But the main point of what's going on here is where we get back into the lawfare again. And we're gonna start with Matt. They do mention in the show that there are a number of other operators. They're not all Navy SEALs. Some of them are Delta Force. Some of them are Army Rangers. A lot of them are guys that have either once they separated from the military and became a civilian. A lot of them wrote books. Okay, but when Matt got out, when he separated, I don't remember what year it was that he actually separated, but I'm thinking it was when Obama was president, because when he wrote the book as a civilian, and it pissed off Obama, okay, and people that are in his administration. And the reason that it pissed them off is because they were right in the works of making the movie Zero Dark 30, which is basically the movie that they made about taking out Osama bin Laden. Then there was a book being written by another person around the same time. Someone by the name of Daniel Crenshaw, who was also a SEAL operator. And Matt went to him. Apparently, Dan Crenshaw can get away with writing a book and not having to have the okay by the by the Department of War, but by basically we'll say by the Pentagon, about having a review done on his book, so that he would make sure that they would make sure there was no classified information that was shared on that. Okay, so
here's what nobody's telling you about the new bearskin hoodie.
Pause this. I don't want any sound to come through. I'm gonna actually close out of that and come back over here. So I think I might have left something on my profile part where I posted somewhere about this. It probably didn't go through. Well, that sucks. Or maybe maybe it just went down here a little bit lower. I'm not sure. Well, I'm not seeing it, so I don't know why my post isn't showing. So anyway, let me just get back to the big ugly mug. All right, so Matt is going through. He writes this book, and then all of a sudden, the DOJ gets on him and starts threatening him that he went and had the book done without having permission or clearance after a review. So Matt had hired an attorney, and the attorney happened to be an ex-military JAG, okay? And the JAG told him, well, you don't have to go through them. He said, I have the clearance. I can actually read your book, go through it, and make sure it's clear that there isn't any classified information that's being shared in your book. So this attorney actually cleared the book. They published it. It went out. Now all of a sudden, the Department of Justice is after Matt. He wrote his first book under a pseudonym. I forget the name right off the top of my head because I have so much other stuff floating around in there. But he wrote the book under a pseudonym. And long and short of it is they put the lawsuit against him. They said, well, what we'll do, since we're going to charge you with not having the clearance or the proper review done to have your book published. So we want all the money that you've made on the book. So all of the money that he made, and including $500,000 on the lawsuit that he had against his first attorney for basically attorney malpractice. He won that because the attorney settled. He had, I think, all but like $1.5 million left to pay off, but then they let him do a payment of like $3,800 a month for the next 15 years. So then he goes to write his second book, and he goes through the government, through the Pentagon, and through the military and everything for proper clearance. Well, the book ends up sitting on somebody's desk in the Pentagon. They're sitting on it, and they haven't approved it. And initially, when this came out, it was just a few days ago. It had been sitting there for over 6 months, and they hadn't done a review. They haven't done anything, and they aren't following up with him on it. So he does have another attorney. The attorney sounds like he knows his stuff. And they're also going to take, because now they were coming after Sean Ryan and have been telling Sean that he needs to take certain shows that he's done with some of these ex-military operators. They have to take it down because supposedly classified information. Well, there is a, I'll just call it, I don't know if it's not really a law, but there is a passage in their, I guess it would be like I don't know if it's part of it might be part of the UCMJ, I'm not sure, but it has to do with, once you're a civilian, you can actually go and talk about your experience on certain things, and you still have to use some discernment on whether or not you're passing classified information, but you can talk about your experience. Now, I remember watching quite a few other shows over on Sean Ryan's channel, and a lot of the operators have been very good about, they would state, Sean would ask about a certain mission or something like that, and they would say, well, I can't really talk about that, but I can say this, and then there would be like a little bit of the experience, which a lot of that related back to some of their injuries, or their, like, for example, like the TBIs. That's a huge issue with special operators in the military right now. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the TBIs and other injuries that not just special operators but military personnel have, and I'm gonna do that from my personal experience after we finish up with this section. So anyway, he's got another book that he wrote. It's sitting there waiting to get the approval so that he can release it. But what they're doing is they're holding that up, and then all of a sudden the FBI shows up at his ex-wife's house, and they have a warrant to take a computer or a laptop or I think it was a laptop that had some things on it from his military days. So they confiscate the laptop, and then um, they're telling him you plead guilty to a misdemeanor, or we're gonna come after you on a felony, and it's gonna cost you. And but he's like, what? I haven't done a felony. I have nothing here. He said, I've done nothing wrong. Everything that I've done is perfectly legal. I haven't put out any classified information. And then they were citing that he was part of a material development thing that he did get full approval for, from his boss while he was in the military, or bosses, and the Pentagon, because he doesn't specifically make any money off of that, but that's developing different gear options for special operators to use on duty, that other branches of the military, like the Marine Corps and the Army and whatnot, could purchase for their people that go out and do special operations type stuff. So he doesn't actually make any money on it. He just develops it, but he gets the credit for being the developer, but makes zero money. So skip forward a little bit. He happens to go to some kind of a conference, and they have some TVs on showing the news, and it comes out on the news about Matt Bissonnette being looked into for, apparently they're saying that he had classified information on his laptop, and they mentioned that there was pictures of Osama bin Laden that they took after they took Osama bin Laden out. So these were from, the cameras or whatnot that all the team members had, so they could all take the photos in case one of the helicopters went down or something happened and they would lose that information. Not all of it would be lost. Okay. So he had this photo of the deceased Osama bin Laden, either on that laptop or another device. He ends up getting his laptop back from the Department of Justice, but all of his military photos, even the normal ones, where he was having photos done with a lot of his SEAL buddies, and maybe at gatherings, anything that had to do with him being as part of being a Navy SEAL, was all erased off of his laptop. So now they're threatening him about the whole having photographs of Osama bin Laden. And he's like, well, geez, if you're going to come after me for that, you're going to have to go after every single person that was on the mission and every other single person that wasn't on the mission that had access to the photos, because I'm sure they probably grabbed them. But he did state, though, that none of the photographs were leaked to social media or anywhere on the internet. He said anything that you see out there that shows a deceased Osama bin Laden is fake. So they're basically using lawfare to come after him. And it's like I said, Matt's not the only one. There are a number of other operators that Sean has had on his show, and they're doing the same thing. Now, I don't know if Obama had a boner against SEAL Team 6, or he was trying to get rid of every one of them that were on the operation, because you go back and you look at how they took out all the SEAL Team 6 that weren't already out of the military or that were sidelined for an injury or something. And that's talked about a little bit as well, not in depth, but why would they take all of SEAL Team 6 out? Initially, people were saying, well, maybe it's because Osama bin Laden was still alive. Maybe they never took him out. Matt Bissonnette said to his knowledge, and what he saw there and what they did for proof that was Osama bin Laden, And he said, we got the photographs and the DNA and everything to prove it. He said even Al Qaeda hasn't come back out and said anything that he was alive. So basically, what they're going after all these ex-military guys, special operators, and everybody for with the lawfare, and what they're doing to them is they're going after them financially. So every dollar that Matt made on his first book, he had to forfeit to if I think he had to forfeit it to anybody, it got forfeited to the Pentagon for whatever reason. That as far because I don't think it was the DOJ that was involved in that. I think this would have been all 100% military and the military attorneys that were after him for that. I don't have the full scoop. They haven't released all that information, and they only talked about certain things because I think the cases are still ongoing. So there's some things with the related to the case that they're not letting out. So it's an ongoing thing. Plus his other book, and then after that, then they're trying to come after him again for. They said that he made money on making this gear, and he never did. And even as a civilian, he wasn't involved with any of that, making any money. So that basically what it was is they were trying to lead him up to the whole thing with the. They said we'll get you on something. Well, then they were trying to get him on the photograph, and turns out they can't. They most likely can't do that either. So while all this is going on, he's also he was on the helicopter that crashed in the compound when the night that they took Bin Laden out. The interesting thing, though, is that nobody knew that the helicopter was actually in a crashed status until after the operation was complete and they were clearing out all the classified information, and they were told to leave, and then they told their EOD guy that they needed to basically put charges out, but so he started putting them on the building, and Matt says, why are you putting it there? He goes, we're not blowing the building. He says, we're blowing the helicopter. And he goes, what? He goes, yeah, we crashed. So the helicopter ended up getting blown, and they brought another one in to take the rest of the members out. So when this helicopter crashed, a few of the guys had some injuries. And a lot of times when you get injuries, especially if you're I'm not just saying just in the military, but even somebody that's athletic and is in pretty good shape, and especially if you're younger, a lot of times when you get an injury, you don't feel it right away. And in their case, they had a lot of adrenaline going. They're in the middle of an operation, so here they've got injuries from the crash, but they don't realize any of that until later. Okay, so now Matt is getting treated through the VA. The VA never once did an MRI or any X-rays or anything with his neck injury, and I think he had some back injury as well. All the VA did was feed him painkillers. So that was when the VA was basically making drug addicts out of our veterans. Okay, so I think that was another thing that was secretly done during the Obama administration. It may have carried over through President Trump's his first 4 years, because it wasn't he was dealing with all the lawfare and everything himself while he was in. But then Biden comes along, and all this stuff ramped back up again during Biden and continued through. Okay, so hopefully, and I know I'm not the only one. I know Sean has done it, and a few other veterans that I've seen on X have put posts out to see if they can get the attention of the right people in the Department of Justice, the President, and with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to get them notified. if they don't already know about it, but let them know, like, hey, we know that this is going on. Are you guys going to do something to fix it? So that's what we're waiting on right now to find out. Hopefully, something will be done. Now, back back to the injuries and everything that Matt suffered and was getting very little assistance from the VA. Basically, he even said during the interview that he had this whole bag of drugs that he took back home with him, and he set it on the table, and his mom's like, "What's that?" And he said, "It's everything that the VA's given me for my pain." And she was like, "Oh my God." But they hadn't done any x-rays, nothing. So they had no, I don't think the VA had any idea whatsoever that he actually had, according to what the ex-Air Force surgeon who actually did the surgery for Matt for free, and for many other veterans that needed to have that. And I think there were like 5 other ones that were just on that mission on that helicopter that had some injuries to their backs and stuff, and that this surgeon, who's now a civilian, has his own practice. He did the surgery for every single one of them for free on his dime. He didn't charge them a dime for it. So that surgeon, and if you watch the video, you'll get his name. That guy's a true hero. Okay, so anyway, now I'm going to lead off to that, and I told you that I would talk about my experience with the VA and with the military medical. So I was in the Air Force, and I was stationed at a certain base. I'm not going to get specific, but I was stationed at a certain base in Japan for my last 3 years and couple of months left in the military. And during my last few months there, we had what they call is a flight level exercise. Okay, so I'm on duty, but what they do is I was a security police. Okay, they call them security police then. Shortly after I got out, they renamed them to security forces. But I was security police. I was a security response team leader, and I was on patrol with my patrol member, and I don't remember his name. I wouldn't mention his name anyway, but he was a fairly brand new guy, and this base in Japan was his first assignment after he finished security police tech school. So we were out on patrol. We end up having this, what they call a 15 and 5. What it means is you have to have 15 people that are, so many people that are out of the on base patrols that have to respond to a certain location. So you have to have a total of 15, and you have to be responded within 5 minutes. And they pounded those exercises all the time, and sometimes they did it to try to catch people off guard. But I tell you, Air Force security police, even though it looks like they're slacking off, they're on it. Okay, they're never screwing off to the point that they're going to get caught off guard. At least not when I was in. So this call came between 5 and 5:30 in the morning. It's in the spring, and it's very foggy. So the fog is probably 4 feet high, right on the ground. So even driving with your headlights on, you can't see much. We responded out to this area, and the reason that we did the 15 and 5 there is because we did that a few times a week, because apparently there were people that were getting on base that were Japanese nationals that were allowed to come on base, but there were apparently the reports that we were getting that there was building equipment type stuff, tools and things like that were being stolen from this construction site up on the northwest side of the base off the runway. So we had responded out there, and they, like I said, it was a construction site, so they're doing construction, and they were putting in the sewage system. And if any of you are um, aware of how they do these sewage systems, they do it in all the cities. What they do is they dig these deep trenches into the ground, 10 to 12 feet deep or so. I don't know the exact measurement, but they dig these trenches and then they lay these. Back then, they were using the concrete tubes that would interlock together, and then once they get together, they would refill the ground back up. But in the meantime, while the trenches are dug and they're putting that in and making all their connections off of buildings and whatnot, they have to put a temporary bridge up. And they had these steel plates that were about, well, maybe a little bit wider than the width of a vehicle. Only one vehicle could go over it at a time. But they were a couple inches thick of plate steel that would go across. It would lay right on the ground and it would go right across, and that would be your bridge. And they would, in each of the corners, they would put these reflective markers up. In this case, they were just a little fiberglass pole about as big around as a fishing pole, that set up off the ground about 4 feet high or so, and they had reflective tape on them, and they would put them in each of the corners. Well, we went out, and apparently when we went out there, there was somebody out there that was actually in the process of trying to steal some tools. And the only reason we figured this is because of what happened next. So we get out there, we respond out, and we make it safely across the bridge. We were waiting for the rest of the time, because that was actually my area of responsibility. So we were there within a minute. So we're waiting for the others to get there. And then the flight sergeant just decides a change up, because we're sitting there waiting, that it's on the other side of the construction area. So we have to go back out over this bridge, back onto the perimeter road, go around the corner, and then come in through another entryway. Well, while we were sitting there waiting, because we had our lights going and we're like, waiting, behind us, these Japanese nationals that were out there trying to steal stuff, they were thinking like, oh my God, they're gonna be able to catch us. We got to stop them. So what they did is they went to the bridge, and they took from each side of the bridge and took the reflectors out and moved them over about the same width to the other side. So we get the call that says, oh, we got to respond to the other side. So we start pulling out, and I'm going slow because I'm looking for the reflectors. And then I see the reflectors, so then I speed up to go across the bridge. Well, when I went across the bridge, there was no bridge, and we dropped straight down. Basically, my Mitsubishi, which is but like a two-wheel drive Dodge Ram, no back seat. It's just a regular pickup truck cab with a box on the back, two-wheel drive, the Mini, the little small pickup trucks. We went across, and the front end of the vehicle hit dirt on the other side, and we dropped straight down until the bumpers on each side dug into the dirt. So we're suspended by dirt, and I think we still had 1.5 feet or so above the 3-foot high concrete pipes that were out there. And we hit pretty hard. The light bar flew off the top. I didn't know where we were. I was like, what the heck just happened? I know we dropped because the roof of the truck came down and hit me on the head and crunched me down. And when we came to the stop, apparently we dropped about 6.5 feet straight down, maybe 7. And that's when we came to that sudden stop, and we both got compressed into our seat, and my patrol partner got bumped forward, and his head hit the light bar box where you turn the lights and sirens on, and it cut a backwards L in his forehead, and he's bleeding all over the place. I'm trying to key my mic on my portable radio to tell them, hey, we just had an accident, but we're getting squeal back because the radio inside the truck was on. So I thought, okay, I'm going to step out of the vehicle and get away from that because I couldn't find the hand mic for it. It had popped off and landed somewhere on the floor. And remember, it's dark in the vehicle. So I opened the door to step out, not realizing that I still have another 4.5 feet before I hit solid ground. And when I stepped out, my right leg landed on the edge of the concrete tube, got hyperextended backwards, slid off, and then I dropped another 3 feet to the ground, and it popped something in my knee. That's where I tore the cartilage. I still have it. The military never fixed it. So anyway, we get the bosses come out, the flight leader, flight sergeant. They all get out there. They drive us to the base hospital while they're doing all their accident reporting and everything. My patrol partner's getting stitches, and they tell me, well, you probably just got whiplash or something. Not even a concussion. You probably got a little bit of whiplash. We'll give you a slip, and your boss can let you off work for a couple days. Then going back to, we're both, he's way younger than me. My patrol partner is like 18, 19 years old, and I had turned 28 the month before. So we're still young, and we're in good shape. So any injuries that we got, like when the truck, I felt the roof hit me in the head, and when I came to the stop, I felt like an electric shock go around my waist like a belt and shot down to my tips of my toes. But the base hospital never even made a record that I was even into the base hospital as part of an accident thing to even get checked out. There was never an annotation made in there. And the way it goes with the military, I mean, at least this has been my experience. I've never been able to see my military records ever. So I never knew what they put in my records. On the few times that I had to hand carry my military records to my next duty station, or after I left Japan, when I separated from the military, they were always in a big sealed manila envelope with a seal on it that they could tell if the seal was broken, you could get in trouble if you opened them. So I never knew that it was never added into my records, but now, I'm going to fast forward now. So I separated from the Air Force in August of 1992. We fast forward up to 1998, and around that time, I'm starting to feel some really bad stuff going on with my back, and then it just got progressively worse. Okay, so the older I got, the worse it got. One of the other things, and I didn't even know that I had access to the VA after I separated from the Air Force. They never briefed me on anything during my separation, nothing. I didn't find out that I could have VA access until my younger brother, who was in the Marine Corps, had been out for a few years, and then he was told by an Army, he would have been in the reserves, Army reserves, and he was a colonel, full board colonel. Said, yeah, you have access to the VA. You didn't know that? No. So my brother didn't even know either. And then he told me, and that's where I kind of got the ball going for my VA disability. But just like a lot of these special operators, all these TBIs that these guys were getting from either making these quick entries and blowing doors with explosives, and a lot of them with the IEDs. I think less with the IEDs because they started checking these guys that were getting blown up by the big IEDs. But a lot of the special operator guys, especially SEAL teams and Delta Force and Army Rangers that would make these like explosive entry using explosives to blow doors, they were getting concussion from that on an almost daily basis and sometimes multiple times on a mission. So all these TBIs, which are traumatic brain injuries, they didn't even know about it, and a lot of times they're still not being acknowledged by the VA, and a lot of these injuries that guys are getting, they never even knew, because we can't access our military records, so we never know. All right, so that's at the point we are right now, and I am in the process of putting together a packet that I want to send to the new VA secretary to make sure that he can look into some of this stuff. And even if it doesn't help me, it might help some of the other guys and gals that were involved in these things while they were in the military. So that's pretty much all I have for today. I am going to end this now because I have a few things that I have to do yet today, and one of them is dealing with VA and disability stuff. So, as always, be aware of your situation or your surrounding. Use situational awareness. Be safe out there, because it doesn't matter if you live in the big city, in the burb, or a little tiny town. These people are planning to be out there anywhere and everywhere where they're least expected. So just be safe and be aware. And God bless every single one of you out there on the other side of the screen. And I will see you again tomorrow morning.